Hi, this is Gary Mintchell, Editor-in-Chief of Automation World Magazine, and talking a little bit about manufacturing today. Mintchell on manufacturing. Recently on my blog, Gary Mintchell's Feed Forward, I've written several posts about manufacturing, and I had the myths of manufacturing, and some has to do with bringing back the middle class, which overall manufacturing strategies have maybe downgraded a little bit. And it provoked quite a bit of reader interest, and so I thought I'd do a little video about this. First off, um, we're in a political season, and so politicians throw all kinds of crap around. And quite frankly, if you take everything with a grain of salt, because it's usually just put in there for their own political purpose, of course. I mean, that's what they do. But if you want, an honest discussion and thought about manufacturing, let's just step back and take a look at some things. So on a recent blog post, I took some statistics from the Federal Reserve Bank. William Strauss is a senior economist and put together a lot of curves, and I put a bunch of them up there just to provide some context. I was taught this many years ago, and all of my experience since then shows that manufacturing should, and indeed is, following along in the same path as agriculture. And in my belief, and I get this from many economists, it's not just I made this up, is that the wealth of a society really comes from productive resources. It doesn't come from financial manipulations. Those come and go, and oftentimes can lead to the demise of a society, although certain financing is very important. However, agriculture was the first thing that really brought societies together. When you could make more than you could eat, you could have cities, you could develop cultures and societies and so on. And then as we developed technology, because all the early technologies really had to do with two things. One was making agriculture more productive, and of course the other was war. And so we'll forget the war discussion right now and just go with making agriculture more productive. And as we did that over centuries, if you look at like where they started with a plow, just kind of like a stick, and then developed in the kind that can like fold the earth over. I'm not a farmer, but I live in farm territory. So we made it more productive, and now one farmer can do hundreds and hundreds of acres instead of 40. And that's productivity, and that's because of technology and developing that. So where did all those farm workers go that were unskilled, semi-skilled, or whatever that we didn't need anymore? Well, about that time, Henry Ford and some other far-thinking people started to develop. Factories have been developing, especially in England, for quite some time, and then Henry Ford did mass production of cars, and actually, there's a belief that we've sort of forgotten about, like, if I pay the workers enough that they can live on, plus they could buy the cars that we're building, and so you sort of get a virtuous circle going, where, because what's the use of being productive and in manufacturing if there's nobody to buy those products? And that's one of the problems we have right now that Henry Blodgett talks about, is that we've succeeded in driving wages down to the point where we don't have enough of a middle class to actually buy all the stuff that we need to produce. Therefore, we don't need as many jobs. So let's go back to manufacturing and jobs. So if you look at a long-term long-term curve, you'll just see the slope going down consistently. Just a nice consistent curve of decreasing jobs for the same amount of productivity, of production. And what drives that? Probably automation. And you can actually look at an inflection point of around 1970, and in the 1970s is when we really started putting in. I mean, the PLC, was invented somewhere in the late 70s, and other kinds of digital technologies, and we just kept accelerating. CNCs, DCSs, intelligent instrumentation, software controls of things, not to mention the other kinds of things like lean manufacturing and ideas about how to make things better, faster, sooner, and all that stuff. So we just keep accelerating that. But the long-term trend has always been the amount of jobs per production unit goes down, but the value of manufacturing, the value of the output keeps going up. So manufacturing is still an important part of our economy. Unfortunately, the number of jobs in manufacturing just aren't quite the same. It's the same as agriculture. And so the jobs have to go somewhere. and so they go to other places. There are all kinds of things that we need: construction, services, and economists used to sniff at services, but hey, we all like service. I'd like to go to the bank, talk to teller, and get somebody to answer my questions, and I'd love to be able to call on the phone to the airline and figure out what's gone wrong instead of have to pay buku dollars and all that stuff. So there's other jobs, but as a society, moving into the middle class thing, we just need to make sure that we're building up middle class jobs, because that was the great genius of America, was to have a huge middle class society instead of a society of upper class aristocracy and peasants. And we still have societies that are kind of upper class aristocracy and peasants. And we need that middle class. China is really developing a middle class, and it'll be just fascinating to see what that country does as it develops, and we get a huge middle class. They could have a middle class, in fact, I think I've been told they already do, is as large as the population of the United States. So it's just mind-boggling where the world can go, and where manufacturing is going to continue to be important. So hopefully I didn't drift too much, but the point of it is manufacturing is important. Manufacturing is important for the economy and all of our well-being. The number of jobs, and actually kind of the weird thing is the number of jobs in manufacturing per all jobs. But if you look at just manufacturing jobs, up until the recession of 2008-9, in that era, pretty stable for decades as far as total number of actual jobs. There's so many ways to look at statistics, but don't buy doom and gloom. Don't buy that manufacturing is declining and bad and all that. A lot of that's just politics. And a couple of people have responded to the blog, and they have points of view which need to be heard, but I don't necessarily agree with 100%. One is from an initiative called Reshoring, which is trying to convince companies to bring their jobs back that outsource the jobs to China, Latin America, Southeast Asia, wherever. Well, there's kind of a double thing to that. First off, the curves don't show any dramatic drop in employment as a percentage or a ratio to overall employment when the offshoring trend started. Now, obviously, it did cost jobs. Actually, jobs can be created, though, so there was evidently some balance in there of some kind. Probably just different jobs that we have in the United States versus those that we shipped overseas. However, executives often clueless about manufacturing, and I think that's our fault for not educating our executives on the importance of manufacturing. They think we're a black box and they can just shuffle it around and it's not a value add, and we need to convince the C-suite, as they call it, that manufacturing is important, can be a value add to a corporation. It can be a competitive advantage to a corporation. A long supply chain of putting products in containers on ships from China is very expensive. And so if you save $2 an hour on labor and you spend twice the equivalent shipping the products over here, and the inventory carrying costs and all the stuff that goes with that are so high, where did you make money anyway? We need to educate executive management that we do have a value add, that we are valuable, and we do add stuff to that. And the other thing is the other organization, and often they were worried about the H-1B visas to trying to bring technical people from overseas, and they said we don't need to do it. We could, and I followed this argument for I think 13 years or longer now. I started in IT. In fact, it's the IT organization actually commented, or somebody brought up the IT organization. And but at a point of fact, there's a lot of arguments in there. It's what are you measuring? What do you need? But the point of fact of a dynamic society is we are bringing people in, and that's a dynamic society. Always bringing in kind of new ideas, new thoughts, new education. You should do that in your company. New ideas, new people coming in. Always a good thing. and keeping things going. So we have a number of things going on, but I really think the basic thing that I was trying to get across was that let's not be bashful about the importance of manufacturing. Let's educate our executives. Let's learn to talk the language of executives, dollars instead of engineering units, for example. Strategic value. I just get so upset that people can't think strategically about things. You know, where does everything fit in the whole mix? You need to have a strategic focus. So let's think about those things. Let's think about how, as we become managers in engineering and management and manufacturing, that we can educate those above us, that we bring a value to our companies and we bring a value to our societies. And that's my message, and I'm all about that. So anyway, I'm at the kind of in the middle of September now, but still kind of beautiful in western Ohio here, and hopefully where you are it is too. So that's Gary on manufacturing.